Welcome back to the Marketplace, your home of NBL free agency. And this we have for you today is a bumper edition. The Cairns Taipans, the Illawarra Hawks, the New Zealand Breakers, all making moves. We're going to get to that very shortly, as well as the Tasmania JackJumpers. I'm Jack Heverin. Olgun, the best newsbreaker in Australian basketball, is here. Pete Hooley from NBL.com.au is here as well. And gentlemen, we can finally officially talk about Jack McVeigh heading to far north Queensland.
Oh, I'm super excited for this. And I tell you what, I know we've recorded a lot of marketplaces. It seems like yesterday we were just on the other side of this room doing a live show when it all opened. I, for one, am ready for this to be over, this free agency period, because it has been way too hectic. It has clearly been the biggest off-season we've ever seen in the NBL. With all the movement, the retention, the big names still probably yet to come as well. It's been unbelievable. It's been a lot of fun. But I don't know about you, Olgun. I'm very tired and I'm ready to see some actual hoops.
I just want to watch basketball. I want to stop guessing what guys are going to look like in different places. Yeah, it's really cool. The narratives write themselves, which is why I'm excited to see it on the court. So many guys in different places. That's what's exciting.
You talk about wanting to watch basketball. I want to watch Jack McVeigh in Cairns as the guy. Jack McVeigh has been a very good player on a couple of teams in Tasmania, in that championship team. There was Crawford, there was Doyle. He was probably not the first option. In Cairns, it feels like this is the ultimate opportunity for him to finally be the guy.
Yeah, I tell you what, the last time I was this excited was on the last Saturday in September in 2017. But unfortunately for the Adelaide Crows, it didn't work out the way that I'm hoping this works for Jack McVeigh. But the ultimate green light Jack McVeigh as the guy under Adam Ford in far north Queensland, I am ecstatic for. Right now, the way he's playing, the confidence that he already has this unique ability to have a different mindset to everybody else, where whatever he puts his mind to, he seems to be achieving. And that is just unbelievable on its own. But now you look at the way he's playing, and I think he came out in an interview recently, a couple of weeks ago, saying he realized how smooth his shot was, that if I can get it off, it's going to go in. That combined with the way we expect Adam Ford to play, some other rumoured pieces we're hearing, he's set for some big things in far north Queensland. It's great for the club, which we'll talk about, but I'm just so excited to see him back in the league.
Olgun, it's not unrealistic to say that this is a genuine MVP contender, is it?
You were correct, right? And I'm going to help you out a little bit. That interview was with me a couple of days ago, ahead of the Boomers Asia Cup campaign.
Okay, Olgun.
I spoke with Jack, and he said he has a renewed excitement about his three-point shot. He knows how good it is now. And those highlights we saw with him in Tasmania, that was him sort of at the start of him figuring out the best version of himself. And then he went on and continued and had an awesome 12 months where he leveraged that into an Olympic campaign and then into a two-way contract. He used all those experiences, got better as a player, figured himself out a little bit more as a player. And we're seeing it now with the Boomers, where that shot is going up. There is zero hesitation. He knows how good of a shooter he is. He is someone who is going to come in, and he's going to be one of the best scorers in the league from day one because of how much confidence he has with all these experiences under his belt.
So he can be an MVP. Do we think that's a fair conclusion?
He's at that talent level, absolutely.
And again, he's going to be handed the keys in terms of scoring and the relying on to be able to put the ball in the basket at a high level. And again, right now, he's going to go out there and probably say that he wants to win that. And based on his previous track record of saying that he wants to achieve all these things and he's been doing it, who's to say that he can't? So I'm fascinated to see how this season's going to play out. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. And kudos to the Cairns Taipans, right? And I said this on Twitter. I'm engaging with a lot of fans. Being patient throughout free agency has tested a lot of fan bases. And understandably so.
It's very scary.
It is very scary.
Hello, Perth.
Because the other side of it is, if it doesn't work out, then you can be left chasing your tail late and things might not work out for the season ahead of time. Especially when Adelaide and Sydney went hard very early. They kind of locked away the majority of things, added some pieces here and there. And everyone was wondering what's next. The Cairns Taipans patiently were just looking at their options in terms of they knew they wanted to go and make a spend this year. They're still talking about private ownership in the future, but they wasn't going to stop them saying, you know what, to get this best talent, we're going to have to spend money to do that. That came with looking for a marquee first. Once Adam Ford understood what everything was going to happen and the change in the direction, what kind of marquee level talent? There was only a limited around that time that could fit what they were trying to build. We'll talk about Sam Wardenberg and some other pieces as well. So Jack McVeigh was one they watched patiently. And I'm sure they were a little nervous around Summer League because he was playing very, very well there, potentially getting another 2A at that point. It paid off with understanding he wanted a release from Tasmania then to go and put something on the table. Hey, do you want to come up to far north Queensland and be a foundation piece of hopefully not just this year, but for the foreseeable future? And again, I'm fascinated to see how it all turns out.
He was the last marquee left, basically.
Yes.
I don't know if there were any other Australians or Kiwis at that level that were prepared to come to Australia. It was McVeigh or bust for them. And thankfully for them, they had the money to front. And they were able to get, again, one of the best locals we've seen in the NBL over the past decade.
So in light of all of that, and we're talking about an MVP candidate here in Jack McVeigh. We saw this tweet in the last couple of days from his agency and his representation in terms of the money that we're talking about here. $2 million over 2 years, that tweet from the Mogul Sports Group. So that puts Jack McVeigh now, Olgun and Pete, in elite company of the $1 million men here in the NBL.
Yeah, so from what I understand, now that Jack McVeigh is earning $1 million a year, there are 4 guys, and these are the 4 right here. Now, Bryce Cotton is understandably and warrantably the highest paid player in the league. His contract is well over $1 million. Next up is JLA, behind me right here. He signed this deal with the Perth Wildcats. They knew that they had to pay up in order to convince him to come to Perth. He also knew that they needed him really badly. So he was able to leverage that and get a big contract in Perth. And then over there, you have the guy who started all of it.
He was the OG, wasn't he?
I'd say he's the reason for all of this. There is, if there's one person who reset the market over the past couple of seasons, it's Xavier Cooks and the Sydney Kings. Because in order to stop Xavier Cooks from going to Japan or from continuing to chase that NBA dream, the Sydney Kings have to front up a certain amount of money. And $1 million is the number that sounds really, really good. It's what a lot of players want. And they did that for him. All of a sudden, a high-level local who could otherwise be in Japan or high-level Europe or chase that NBA dream, $1 million is almost the asking price now for that level of player.
It's awesome to see. And again, you go back and we talk about all the talent getting poached from around the world, from Australia to go around the world. The best talent, our local talent, costs money. So teams are now not afraid after Xavier Cooks proved that you can go out there and do it. And this is also the beauty. I think it's almost been 10 years since they reintroduced the 3-import rule and brought in the marquee player rule. This rule was put in there for this exact reason, where you can go out there, as long as you can do it and pay the best local talent, it's going to hit your cap on a very low amount and you give them what they deserve in this market. And kudos to all 4 of them for earning them some very high money. And hopefully at some point, Bryce Cotton can join the marqueeable level of that.
And then isn't it funny how it sort of feels like with Cairns doing this now that it's like, well, if it's good enough for Cairns, it's good enough for everyone, because they've been a different model in terms of the ownership and the way that they are. We kind of always expect that Sydney are good spending, not necessarily the highest spenders, but good spenders. Adelaide in the last couple of years have been all in, and so have been Perth. But now the Cairns coming on board with this feels like the last piece of the puzzle.
Well, like the 3 teams that these other guys are on, these are teams that have consistently spent a lot of money, and they'd be considered big market teams. The Cairns Taipans consistently have not been a big market team. They've consistently been the lowest spender in the league. So them doing it makes other players around the league think, oh, if Cairns can do it, then any team can do it for me. And I've already spoken to a lot of people around the league, a lot of high-level locals, including a lot of big men, who are thinking, I cannot wait for my free agency. Because once that hits, if that's the asking price for someone like Xavier Cooks, me being on my measly 300 grand, which I think 3 or 4 years ago was a really good pay packet for a starting big man, all of a sudden that is a significantly underpaid player in the NBL.
The exciting thing, Pete, and you've played in this league, is there's no looking back now, is there? From where we are, there's just to stay in step with world basketball and world sport. We're going to see more and more of this now.
Yeah, and again, as the league continues this rapid growth and we've got sellouts left, right and centre, we talk about broadcast deals, everything's on the up. The big talent wants to play here, and some of the key signings we're talking about, some of the key signings still yet to come. You look at this team, the biggest off-season ever, that's going to cost some money. So it's exciting, and Olgun, I believe that might be 4 players in the $1 million market right now, but next year that might add someone.
So I'm under the impression that Parker Jackson Cartwright will join the $1 million club next season. So that's an import that will join that. We'll see if any locals return. But to further contextualize how much these guys are worth in the open market, I spoke to a Japanese team a couple of weeks ago who said that they would pay Xavier Cooks $1 million US net, which once you go through, that pays for the taxes. Once you go through converting that to how much Australian dollars go in his pockets, that's well over $2 million. So that is the market of these guys outside of this country. And so in order to keep them here, a lot of guys do take pay cuts because Australia is a beautiful place to live. People like playing here. You get paid on time. There is something about how organized the NBL is that is palatable to these players. However, the money outside the NBL is so substantial that so in order to keep them here, hitting that $1 million or more mark is really important.
And something we've spoken about a little bit about throughout this last really couple of months with that is that we're a short season and we've got NBA eyes. So if you have that NBA desire to come here, you've got NBA eyes on you every single time that you're playing to get back to the NBA or get your chance in the NBA. But if it's all about, okay, I want a different experience in the off season, we've seen guys go overseas to Europe after their NBL season finishes, go to Puerto Rico now, which is paying really well. And 12 months around the calendar year, you're looking very good. So there's all these things, there's all these positives. And again, this is just a great sign for the league.
This is something that fans have been asking for on Marketplace for a while, to start talking a little bit more freely about the value of contracts. So hopefully for all of you Marketplace fans out there, you got a little bit out of that. Let's go back to the Cairns Taipans before we finish up on them, because now that they've got Jack McVeigh on their roster as their marquee player, their depth chart, the Taipans, has still got a lot of gaps in it right now. Here's how it looks, and it should be worth noting that Ryan Smith has been widely reported to be joining the Taipans. Olgun, Admiral Schofield is a name that you've mentioned in the last little while. These are not official names as yet, but it's starting to take shape.
Yeah, so while not official, this is what we're expecting this team to look like. You know, Admiral Schofield is someone who I think is traditionally plays more as a 4, but he is a defensive-minded sort of forward. Has played in the NBA, most recently played in Europe. So he is someone who brings just a ton of grit and I think just a dense body to their front court. And then Ryan Smith is that shooter, and they were hoping for at least one of those like young local shooters who could maybe be a high-level guy in a few years. Ryan Smith is that guy. When we look at the spots left, I'm told that starting point guard spot,
that's the interesting one.
The guy they're zoning in on is Ashton Hagans, right? Point guard out of Kentucky, a young guy. That's who they're looking at that spot there. And then if we look down here, this backup power forward spot could probably play the 3. Mawot Mag, Australian, most recently played at BYU. He's someone that the Taipans are targeting there. So that'll fill out a lot of their roster going forward. But when you look at it, let's say those things get done, and I fully expect them to, it's a very forward-heavy roster. It's a very big man-heavy roster. Back here, backup center. The team's targeting Marcus Lee. Right now they're in conversations. They're targeting a backup import. And so Marcus Lee is an end that they've reached out to. Let's see if they get that done. But that's what they're looking to fill the rest of this roster out with.
Pete, let's talk Schofield first and foremost. So Olgun described a little bit of him. He's big, he's thick, he's got experience at the elite level, obviously, as well. How do you see him fitting into an Adam Ford team?
As soon as I heard about the name, I was really excited. For that reason, translating to the NBL, having that size, being able to play that certain type of way under Adam Ford, I think is going to be really beneficial for the Taipans and for Schofield. So I think they'll unlock a little bit more of his offensive game as well. He can come in and play a bit freer. But it was also the piece they probably need when you look at what Jack McVeigh doesn't bring you on the floor. Yep. That's what Schofield can kind of cover. Even Sam Wardenberg to a degree. There's a lot of versatility. Talking about being forward heavy, there's a lot of versatility they can use. I expect Jack McVeigh to play a lot of the 3 at times as well. You can have Sam Wardenberg in his traditional power forward or starting at a center, but Schofield in particular, I really think he's not going to have any issues transitioning to the NBL to be really effective. And I threw it out there on Twitter, give me your all NBL first team, which by the way is completely impossible.
Very difficult.
It's very, very difficult for the first time in a very, very long
I don't know why you did that, to be honest.
I just wanted to annoy some people because it's very hard to do. But Schofield's a name you could see in that mix alongside Jack McVeigh. And again, Sam Wardenberg coming off an unbelievable season in Puerto Rico. If he stays healthy, he's been injured in the wrong time in the last couple of years. He's playing at a sky-high level as well. These other little reported pieces, I know they missed out on Ben Henschel. That was a key piece they wanted, but they secured Ryan Smith. So all these other things under Adam Ford, it'd be a fun time to be a Taipan supporter.
Fordy has mentioned it in the past, how much he's fallen in love with these big, versatile forwards. You know, we saw them recruit Kyron Galloway last season, Tanner Groves. He obviously loves Sam Wardenberg. Sam Menenga was on that team. He loves that play style. And so when you look at what they have, they're really filling out a roster with a lot of those guys. And the positional versatility is the thing that I'm watching for, because you speak about Jack McVeigh playing a lot of the 3. I think NBA teams would have told Jack McVeigh,
yes,
in order to compete at this level consistently, we need to see you play more at the 3, whether it's guarding on the perimeter or being able to make plays off the bounce.
The other interesting prospect there that you mentioned is Mawot Mag. Always nice to see guys coming straight out of the NCAA system and to come to the NBL, which is exciting. Adds a bit of versatility. He might be a little bit of an unknown to some of the Marketplace viewers. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, there's like a defensive mindset with Mawot Mag. There's some shooting there too. I think that the size and the length is something that I think Fordy really likes. And when we talk about some of the players who have excelled under Adam Ford, the Cairns Taipans are, again, traditionally one of those teams that plays a lot of young guys. So if they're able to bring him in, if there's minutes for him, then they're probably able to expedite that growth, similar to what they did with, let's say, Abul Kawal, right? Even Keanu Pinder, when they signed him out of the 36ers, they gave him an opportunity. He's able to expedite that development.
This seems like Fordy's next project.
Yeah.
You look at it and Fordy's probably the best coach in the league at having that project type player for the season and still trying to develop everybody, get everyone on the same page. But I want to either give you a second chance, I want to give you a new change of scenery, I want to unlock something in you haven't seen before. You mentioned the names Keanu Pinder, Bull Qual, all go on to get probably more money than Cairns could pay at the time. Now, I don't want to talk about hindsight, what could have been this year had everybody stayed and they retained everybody from there. But that seems like someone who Adam Ford realizes, you know what, I see the potential there. You come in here, you work it through, make it through Hell Week, and we'll see what happens there. But as I said, it's the Cairns Taipans, as slow as it's been in the off-season, all of a sudden it's very, very exciting time.
And if we paint this imaginary world where Mawat Mag does follow a similar development pathway to a Bull Koala or a Keanu Pinder, and let's say he gets to the second or third year of a deal and you have the Sydneys and the Melbournes and the Perth Wildcats and all these bigger market teams chasing him. The hope is that the Taipans are putting themselves in a position where they can be so sustainable going forward that it's not just this guy goes to bigger and better things. The hope is that the Taipans are that bigger and better thing and that they can pay up for talent.
And we missed their latest project, which has been Alex Higgins-Titcher. So that's someone he's ready for a breakout campaign as well. You talk about the versatility. He might even play in the shooting guard position at times if Rain Smith has to handle the ball.
Someone has to.
Yeah. Well, they've got to have those different choices to use. But I'm really excited to see Alex Higgins-Titcher. We don't often see a development player from the year prior get a Summer League opportunity, play in the World Cup 3x3. So his confidence is sky high right now. So all those positive vibes combined with the most ultimate positive person in the entire world in Jack McVeigh, this puzzle has come together.
So a lot of time on the Cairns Taipans, but rightly so, because they have been patient, as Pete said, and they are making things happen now. So we will no doubt double back on the Snakes very, very soon. Let's go to the Tasmania JackJumpers, who unfortunately for them had their hand forced a little bit in terms of the point guard position. Shocking news for Sean McDonald, an ACL representing Australia. We're thinking of you, Sean. He's had such a horrendous run with injuries in the last couple of years. The positive out of it, I guess, though, for the Tasmania JackJumpers, and we have pointed this out a lot on the show, is that they had an import spot free and they were able to pull the trigger.
And we spoke about this last episode, that JackJumpers would be so thankful, unfortunately, that Will Magnay didn't get the two-way offer, because if he took that, then they would have probably used an import spot on that big and couldn't have used it on Tiger Campbell, who is the point guard they got. Now, I'm surprised at how quickly they were able to go and get this guy, because it was a day or two after Sean McDonald did his ACL that I was told that Tiger Campbell was more than likely joining the JackJumpers. And so they get this 5'11", speedy point guard, played at UCLA. I think a lot of people would know him from his time there. He comes in and there's some dynamic creation from him on a team that between him, Bryce Hamilton, David Johnson, there's a ton of dynamic creation across the backcourt of that team.
Yeah, we don't often see this, if at all, when we see imports 1, 2, and 3. It's a very rare occurrence. They wouldn't have liked to have done that. Obviously, Sean McDonald, they physically handed him the keys. I think Mark Radford went and handed him the keys for this year. So he'll come back better and stronger than ever. But yeah, Tiger Campbell, he's small. He's going to be a bit of a terror on defense. I really think he's going to be someone that the Tasmanian JackJumpers fans falls in love with. But this alongside that rest of the roster, I've said it throughout the entire offseason, I'm very high. Again, they've got to stay healthy. Now they lose that insurance policy with having another import in case somebody else goes down. But Tiger Campbell's a nice piece to slot in there. Alongside, and I keep saying I'll bring up who's going to be an All-NBL first-teamer for this year when we inevitably get forced to do our predictions. I've got Bryce Hamilton in mind. I think Bryce Hamilton is going to be an absolute stud in this league. Olgun's nodding his head because he agreed.
I agree.
So they've got that piece. They've got these other pieces. The 3 wings guards as imports, you have a look at their depth chart. How that all comes about is going to be one thing to definitely watch. That's the beauty of preseason. They've already got, obviously, Hamilton and Johnson there. They've been there for some time. They go out in the community, do the first couple of days of preseason. But Bannon and Magnay holding down the fort, this is a really, really tough team. And this is a team that is, as I said, as long as they stay healthy, they click it the right way, you don't want to play against them.
And then this bench unit, Olgun, as well. So Ben Air, chip on his shoulder. Nick Marshall, chip on his shoulder, has never really reached the heights that he wanted to at Adelaide. Anthony Drimmick going to the bench. He won't love that. He's a competitive beast, Anthony Drimmick. Majuk Deng will always give you 150% every time he plays. So depth was a bit of an issue for them last year as well, whereas it's not this time around.
Look, we still need some of these guys to prove that they can provide impact in meaningful moments, right? We need to see it from Nick Marshall. We've seen it in bits and pieces from Ben Air. We've seen it from Majuk Deng and Anthony Drimmick. Kobe Williamson is a rookie, so we still need to see that. And when we speak about some teams have the depth that they're almost injury immune, where if someone high level gets injured, they're okay because they can fill the gaps. I'm curious whether this team, if one of these major guys gets injured, if they can fill the gaps. That's something that we'll have to wait and see. But I agree that the guys with the chips on their shoulders, and it feels like Dreamick and Majuk Den, while champions, just have a perennial chip on their respective shoulders. But on Bryce Hamilton, you put him in your All-NBL first team, I'll probably do the same thing. The big tell is when you ask imports around the league and coaches around the league about this guy, they say he's an absolute stud. Wow. So if other imports say that, they don't always speak so fondly of each other. You know, they're all competitors, right? They want to compete against each other. But a lot of them say that Bryce Hamilton is a really, really damn good player.
Just remember that both of these gentlemen said that when it comes time to making your predictions before the start of the season, and Supercoach, don't forget as well. To the Illawarra Hawks now, they have just gone about things at their own pace as well. They had a lot of their team coming back from last season, so that made things a little bit easier for them. Jonah Bolden coming in is an interesting addition. They made a massive splash last week, obviously, with Javale McGee. But Bolden coming in, we're assuming to play a bit more of the 4, Pete. Is that the thinking here with him coming into this spot?
Yeah, it's a really, really good signing. You'd think of the way they like to play under Justin Tatum, and they're going to shoot a lot of threes, and he can slide down to the 5 for sure and cover that. But even Harry Froling coming in, they're going to have a lot of the time, if JaVale McGee's off the floor, they're going to have everybody be able to shoot the 3 ball at a relatively high rate. So this is going to make them more potent offensively. I really like the signing. As soon as I saw Olgun tweet it, I thought, you know what, this is the perfect piece to slot in alongside JaVale McGee, who we talk about all these kind of predictions. If JaVale McGee comes in, has the impact we can expect, or to the level of, he'll be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate alongside Will Magnay, who we saw before for the JackJumpers. But this little roster is really starting to come together. And you talk about chips on their shoulder. They know the target's on their back. And you just feel under Justin Tatum, we keep talking about the vibe of the Illawarra Hawks. They want it that way, and they're going to say, you know what, we've got what everybody wants. Come and get it.
Bolden, Olgun, I think if you're judging Jonah Bolden off last year in New Zealand, in some ways it almost feels unfair to judge any of the New Zealand Breakers off what happened in the second half of last year. But Bolden in particular, when Taco Fall came in, minutes were sacrificed, role was sacrificed. The whole thing for him was just not a good fit in the second part of the year.
I agree. And again, you can't say that about anyone on that Breakers roster, because as soon as Taco Fall went in, just the entire vibe, the entire play style of that team shifted in, I think, a negative way, or a way that is not going to, impress people as far as like what those other guys could show. Jonah Bolden, just in a vacuum, is a big man who has NBA experience, can shoot the 3 ball and can pass the ball. Now, you put that next to JaVale McGee, you have so much size in that front court. I didn't think once McVeigh was off the table that the Hawks were going to be able to get a Marquee level player. Now, you can argue whether Jonah Bolden is still a Marquee level player or maybe a fringe Marquee guy, but he's a high level local. Yep. So to slot him in there, you have some NBA experience here in the front court with the size that they have. And again, if the shooting is there, like we saw in Sydney, like we've seen in bits and pieces in New Zealand and over the course of his career, and the passing is there, there's a high IQ passer there, it works with the rest of this roster. And the sneaky thing it's done in not being able to pay up for Jack McVeigh is you're getting someone who's probably less than half the price of McVeigh, which saves a lot of money to spend even more on that import point guard, which is what they're looking at. They're looking at high-level talent at that spot and saving the money here by not getting McVeigh, getting Jonah Bolden, who's still high level. You can get a really good player at the point.
That position now, Pete, I mean, Will Hickey, Davo will see this, no doubt, and Davo will tell us that he should start, and he probably could start, to be honest, but if they land hard here at the point guard position, then we're looking at the defending champions being one of the top seeds again, aren't we?
Oh, for sure. I mean, they've got to land it, but you're right. David Hickey can start on any other team in the league. He proved that in the championship series. He was so key for them doing it. So they have that in kind of, I guess, call it insurance, but they're going out there willing to spend money on this import point guard. So you throw in whoever it's going to be in that alongside Tyler Harvey. Winding Sparkler Bullock is getting better each year. He's continuing to grow his offensive game. They've got that point of attack defender. They stretch the floor with Jonah Bolden, even Harry Froling coming in. When Sam Froling comes back at the back end of the year, they can ease him in. And as I said, JaVale McGee, if he comes in and has the impact we expect, he's going to contend for a Defensive Player of the Year, be a rim protector, finish on the other end. The reigning champs have enough, more than enough, with Dan Greeter, Todd Blanchfield's getting better. It's all there for Justin Tatum just to sit back and say, you know what, let's go get it again.
So this guy here is going to average 3 blocks a game, at least.
At least.
He is, when people say he's 7 foot, that's underdoing it. If you ask people, especially those who've seen in Puerto Rico, JaVale McGee is huge, right? In the NBL, he's an anomaly, but he has, think of like a Taco Fall who blocked a lot of shots, but with some mobility. Yeah, and that's the difference between JaVale McGee and other bigs. Now, he'll block a ton of shots. You have a Defensive Player of the Year finalist whenever he steps on the floor in Wanaswakala Bullock. And Will Hickey is someone who, while I don't think he'll start because they will chase an import point guard that's high level, I think Will Hickey, like last season, is going to finish games. So with him on the floor, Wanaswakala Bullock, JaVale McGee, all of us, you've got three really good defenders on the floor. The length is there. The activity is there. They're going to be a really good defensive team once again.
And the other thing, Pete, you've probably got to see Illawarra live to really appreciate this, how big this team are. Last year on the floor, they were the biggest, thickest, tallest team by a considerable distance, I thought, in the NBL.
Well, that's going to be the key piece around this import point guard as well, right? They want a bit more size to put alongside Tyler Harvey because of all the other pieces you just mentioned that as well. So they've got some time to kind of figure it out. I know we're getting closer to the blitz, but all those other pieces for other reasons you mentioned, I start to figure out, okay, what are my questions on why can't teams win a title? We're going to assume that they go and absolutely nail that last import point guard position, and then we see, okay, what are the questions for why they can't win it? There aren't too many.
The only question I'll have is how they replace Youngjung Lee.
Yeah.
Now, his shooting was extremely important for this team. Now, they're looking for replacements for it. There are some options out there. You know, there are local shooters still on the open market, but there's also a chance that one of these DPs, whether it's Johnny Narkle or Kobe McDowell-White, they perhaps get elevated. We know how much this ownership doesn't like to, dip into the luxury tax. By elevating either Johnny Narkle or Kobe McDowell-White, you can have a player on an Indigenous contract, and so that won't count toward the cap. So you're paying zero on the cap for one of these guys. That's something that I think this team will seriously consider.
And also worth mentioning how Todd Blanchfield, I mean, you're talking about being in the form of his life, not slowing down. So you expect his opportunity to grow, shooting the ball at a high rate so they can kind of, I guess, somewhat replace HJ Lee in that. I know they played alongside each other, but that's a really nice puzzle to be looking at.
So before we finish up here on the marketplace, we're just about to press record today, Pete, and Olgun said, hang on, I've got one more. I want to add one more name to the list, and that is the New Zealand Breakers, who are just about done now.
Yeah, they were looking for this big man, this power forward to put next to Sam Menenga, and they found it in Rob Baker II. Now, this is someone who, I've already spoken to a lot of people about him, he can shoot the lights out. That is what his skill set is, and so he comes in, and you pair him next to Sam Menenga, you have this versatile 4 and 5 who can probably switch it up, and you open the floor with Kareem Lopez's cutting and slashing. You open the floor for Parker Jackson Cartwright to operate. And so I've always said that if you're able to maximize someone like PJC, then he will maximize you. And I think Rob Baker II comes in and he does exactly that.
It seemed to me that was the key characteristic of whoever they were looking for to fill the power forward spot, to be able to step out there and shoot the three at a high rate for that exact reason. You want to give the best space possible for Parker Jackson Cartwright to work in and operate at a high level. If that's zero, he's still going to find a way to be an MVP level candidate. But how to make his life easier, and that's what they've gone out there and done. Brockington in the backcourt with him, Kareem Lopez, a year of experience under his belt, looking very good right now. So they've got all these little pieces right here for Coach Kopp to say, you know what, let's try, if we put all this all together and really try and lean on Parker Jackson Cartwright with Sam Menenga, who I'm expecting to have a breakout season. There's a reason to be excited if you're a New Zealand fan as well.
And so here's the depth chart while you're talking about this, Olgun.
Well, yeah, and I'm curious of what Rob Baker II is going to look like. He played with the Pacers in the NBA Summer League, just coming off a season with Alba Berlin in the Euro League. And so I'm curious. There's the skill sets there. You speak to a lot of people around world basketball. They'll tell you that he's a high-level shooter. There's a real, almost like there's NBA talent there, but he hasn't been able to put it all together yet. And I wonder if this is the year where it happens.
I'm going to leave room on the Taylor Britt train for 2 to 3 rounds, all right? I'm just going to leave it there. I'm driving the bus. If you want to come along for the journey, he's playing very well in the Asia Cup. But you're right, teams have looked at him. He's played well in the off-season. Now he gets another chance back in the NBL, and I fully expect him to be a very key piece to whatever they succeed this year.
Fantastic work by both of you. I've no doubt that we're going to be back in the studio very soon because a couple of teams are very close to making some big signings as well. So that will be coming up on the next edition of Marketplace. Don't forget, nbl.com.au for all the latest news and information. You can download the NBL app as well. We are getting closer to the start of NBL 26. We'll see you next time.